Welcome to the live stream. It's Saturday, February 18th. Yay. Working on the tiger. Working on the tiger. So when we left off on Thursday, this is what we did. We lightened up the tiger's head. And let me zoom in on this. I've also changed up my Krita layout as well. I was watching some videos on Krita, and it inspired me to make a change. So that's the change that we did on Thursday. Also that. So, you know what's great about coming into the same painting over and over and over again? Well, there's a lot of good things and a lot of bad things about it. Hopefully the good outweigh the bad. But the good thing about this is that you get to kind of live with it for a while. And really kind of learn and get an idea of changes. If you're looking at it every day, and a lot of times it's, it can get easier if you put it away for a while, then come back with, fresh eyes, quote unquote. But, I work on this in the morning, and then I go my whole day without really looking at it. And then I come back, the next morning, and it seems like even in that small time frame, well, a whole day, I guess it's not a very small time frame. In that small time frame, I always have, an idea of where I'm at and where I want to go. It's enough time to step away, right? It's enough time to get a better understanding. And where I want to go with this is a little less bright than what we have it here. And actually what I think I'm going to do with our overlay layer, it's a bit too saturated as well. So I'm going to try and pull down the saturation. See if that actually does anything, actually. And it does. It lightens things up, but it doesn't oversaturate. And I can create a filter mask here. That way we can turn the mask on and off. So there's really bright and saturated, and then bright but not so saturated. And even though we have our value range, so let me open that document. And that was, we last worked on it last stream on Thursday. So on the right side is our composition sketch. We spent several live streams coming up with a composition sketch, and then we blew it up. That's why it looks kind of wonky, because it was really tiny. It was a really tiny thing, like that big, before we blew it up. And we built the entirety of our full painting in this same composition. And then coming back and looking at them side by side really helps you, stick to the, what's the word for it? The essence of what you wanted to capture. And so what we do is you can go into the painting you're working on, Control A to select everything. Let me back all the way out. Then Control Shift C to copy every layer, or at least for it to look at every layer when it's doing a copy, and then Control V and paste it in here, and then I just remove all the saturation from it just to look at the values. Now, it's not as bright as our thumbnail, but does it have to be? And I'm at this point where I'm looking at it and I'm thinking it doesn't have to be. Hi, good morning, Thinker. Hey Chris, I was thinking the face and forehead should be decreased and the cheeks, jaw, and mane should be much closer to value to the forehead and face. Then the shock of light might work. Yeah. And the cheeks, jaw, and mane should be much closer to value to the forehead and face. Let's see. Because we do have to work with saturation on that. But the one point I want to make here is, and I agree with you, I think having a nice shock of light on the tiger would be pretty nice. And figuring out a way to accomplish that, we'll learn a lot. But the point I want to make here is we don't have to make it look exactly like our thumbnail sketch or a compositional sketch. We can always, that's where we started, and this is where we're at right now, and I think it's looking really good. So let's do this, and just in our black and white, and I'm going to save this as the next number in our current document. That way I can save it for you guys in the resources that you can download. Okay. So let's do an overlay layer. So insert, let's change the layer to overlay. That seems to work really well for kind of, light on a subject in a way. I mean, we could do a color dodge, but it's not in black and white. Color dodge is really used for color. Okay, let's just try this at first because it's an overlay layer, and I'm just throwing down white here basically. Let's go all the way in. I mean, you can see it on the nose, right? Or can I get any brighter than that? Yes, I can. Just testing some values on here. There's a definite difference there, You can see it. Not sure if I like it, but you can see it. But that's full white, and maybe we just go with full white, right? Let's say that, and I keep wanting to go in this pattern, I think the reason why is because it's counter to these. So we could, another thing we can do, and I just thought about this, is, I could just hit delete on this layer. I'm putting the shock of light in the most lightest part of the head. That doesn't have to happen. I mean, I could also go here with it in these kind of darker areas. Wow, that looks terrible. It's so bright. Yeah, I think, because we're dealing with such bright colors on the tiger, I think if we're going to do this, we have to work it up on the tiger itself. Now, the one thing, we did this extra overlay layer to lighten up everything again, and I do not like that. It just blows everything out of proportion. Don't like it at all. So we're not going to do that. But you say decrease, we should I was thinking the face and forehead should be decreased, and the cheeks, jaw, and mane should be much closer to the value of the forehead and face. Then the shock of light might work. Right. Because, and I see what you mean, because we keep bringing up the value of the mane and the kind of underside, right? What if we just decrease that light a bit? I mean, is this all over? I think we even got, yeah, we even got into the, what I would need to do on this one is just go in with an eraser. Oh, by the way, this is something cool that I found, that I figured out that I had no idea. If you go into settings and then, what was it, configure Krita or general? So settings, configure Krita. The very first page on general that comes up, you can change your eraser color and show an icon. So this is fantastic. Okay, so here's my brush, right? And then when I hit the eraser tool, look, it turned, I can make it turn red. That is so helpful. That is like one of the most helpful things ever. And then there's also a little eraser icon that shows as well. Isn't that fantastic? See, when I, so red, green. Now I don't need to, I don't even need to think about if I'm on the eraser or not. I can see it. It's fantastic. So that was a recent update. Crit is getting better all the time. Okay, so what I can do is turn on my eraser, and then I want to get, and I'm learning, this is, by the way, all the brush, I'm all over the place today, sorry about that, but all the brushes I'm using right here are David Revoy's latest brush pack. And I've even set up my Krita to, you know, kind of like how he uses it, which is interesting. I'm still trying to get used to it because, and actually I'm, as far as where I'm positioned, I'm more like my head is right where the tiger's head is. So everything over here seems really far away to me. Especially this overview, which is really good to have up an overview, because you can always have like a little tiny small thumbnail. I've forgotten about that. Always having a little small thumbnail of your piece. And actually I might move it all the way up to the top. Having that little small thumbnail will give you a really good idea of where you're at on everything. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway, I'm using all the David Revoy brushes and getting an understanding of what these are used for. And it's really fantastic. It's getting me an ideas of, you know, how to create my own kind of brush packs, you know. He's got a whole video out on how he uses every single one of these and what each family is used for in some ways. He does completely different art than I do, but that's okay, you know. It's the idea. So we're going to go over this overlay layer that is adding some light to the tiger's head. And we're just going to try and remove some of it from the top of the head and the ears. All this is very subtle, by the way. It's almost like I can't even see it until I put my cursor over this, and then I can kind of get an understanding where, you know, how much I've erased. And maybe I'll use the big airbrush. Decrease the value on the forehead and face, and maybe increase the value on the lower part of the face while keeping the lower and area darker than the face. Yeah, I'll try that. I don't want to do it too much, honestly. I like the high contrast. I think the high contrast is really good. Yeah, no, I understand. Thank you for your vote. Your input is important. But I think you're right. You know, if we wanted to get that shock of light, it has to be darker. The head has to be darker. Okay, let's work on that. What would be the best brush? I really like this brush for this. This is another overlay layer. We don't want our eraser. I can see it right away. That's fantastic. Okay. Yeah, let's try it. So sunlight, we'll have, well, actually sunlight is, depending on where the sun is in the, during the day, it's going to be cool or warm. And I think this is going to be a cooler light. I think the high contrast will come in with the shock and the deep set eyes. Yeah, let's see. We're going to throw it in. Like getting the layout of this is going to be what I'll probably have to play with for a while. Getting the shape of this highlight. Don't like that color. Let's try again. I'm going to go with a warmer color now. And I'm not trying to... I'm just being completely random with this right now. It's not going to look right at first. Don't like that one either. I really think... Man, I really want to get some reference images to see what light looks like. And I fear that, because if we got some reference images, it's going to be like a photograph, and all of these parts will be really blown out. And, well, if they need to be blown out, then we blow them out, right? It's almost too much. I'm going to try it way back here. Should the brow cause a cast shadow on the bridge of the nose? That's a really good question. Let's look at this. Actually, no, I'm not going to look at it that way. I have a whole bunch of reference images in my tiger painting. Looking for a 3/4 or profile view. And from what I remember before, all the 3/4 views that we've looked at, there wasn't much of an overhang. This is interesting. I'll open this one with Krita. Oh, it's taking a while to open. I just did an update to Windows yesterday, so image glass could be broken. No, it's not. Okay, good. Oh, that's a terrible image. Dreams time. So yeah, if you look at it here, the shape of the head, the brow isn't. I mean, it's on the same level as the eyes. So the brow is here, and there's going to be some turn, I would guess, right there. It's really hard to tell because there's the variation in local color. But if as I feel this structure, I would see, like, if the light comes down, there would be some darkness there on the eye, but it wouldn't go too deep onto this kind of bony cheek area, I would guess. So we're really kind of pushing that, even as it is. The difference is that I have, intentionally lightened up the eyes. The eyes are lighter, I would guess, than what they should be. And I really wanted to look at this one. Let's do this. Let's do some learning on this image. And why this image? Because we have sunlight hitting this tiger. I mean, the difference is so subtle. Okay, so the highlight is going to be like right there. I mean, we're as white as we can get. I mean, that's because it's the sunlight is hitting the white area. That's one thing I talked about before when we were talking about value, is the only time that you get really high, super bright white like that is when the sunlight is actually hitting something white. But look at it on the nose. I mean, we're all over the place right here because of the difference in pixels. But that's the difference between the shadow and the light area. What's really interesting is look how dark this side of the nose is. And then when we get into, all this is in shadow, right? But the white part is right there. I mean, huge difference. I did a search on tiger in profile, and you're right, there's almost no dip from the brow to the nose. Oh, thanks for that. I got my own research team. That's awesome. Working together. Thanks for the confirmation on that. That's good. So this is giving me kind of a better understanding, and I think, like, if I remove saturation on this, let's bring, or if I bring back the saturation on this, I want to just get some picked colors from, like, this is all sunlight, tiger sunlight hit areas. And then shadow areas. It's really dark there. I think I know what I did wrong. I think, and after we talked about the aspects of color, we can kind of see what the difference is between this sunlit area and the non-sunlit area. The major difference. Oh, and let me confirm that. Here, let's do this. Control U, remove all saturation. Okay, create that mask. So this is really interesting. If I pick this value here, it's about right there. And that's a little bit darker. Right here. So a lot of these super intense oranges, right? They have the same value range as some things down here. But the difference between all these colors, if I'm right, is they're going to be close to the outside of our circle. Oh, that one's in the middle. That one's pretty close to the center. So is that one. Those are all the whites, these kind of white areas. That's in the middle. That's in the middle. Okay, and all these. No, that's fairly saturated. Wow. Wow, that every single shadow that I picked here was all in the same place, just about. Except for, let's look at the white in shadow. And this, of course, it's not the image we're going off of. It's like super close to gray. It's all gray. The only thing different is probably the nose. Yeah, just nose dips into red. I think the bigger mistake that we've made, or I've made, is too much saturation. Actually, it's not bad. I mean, it's in mid-saturation. Maybe the problem is that it's everywhere. Okay, I'm going to delete all of that. And I'm going to change the levels of this tiger. It's going to brighten things up, isn't it? Yes. I mean, you can see a really clear delineation between the light and the shadow that's hitting this tiger. I like that the light is kind of coming from behind as well. That's really interesting. Okay, what have I learned from that I can pull into this to help us with what we're doing? Well, first off, the one thing that I do learn from this is if I go back into these levels, which is now a little tiny thing, and let's say we change our output levels so that it's really dark. Yeah, see, what I'm seeing here, and what I'm trying to get an understanding of is how dark are the whites in the shadows when we take this way down. How about do a couple picks on this first. Wrong thing. It's a funny tiger face. Actually, I don't think I should have... I think I should have done that within color, not within black and white. Yeah, the big issue that I see right here is I've lost all the white stripes. And I think, you know, you guys have said several times that the shadow side needs to be lightened up. And I was like, no, I don't think it does. It really doesn't need to be lightened up. And it actually, it does. But in a specific way. All of those... what's supposed to be lines, you can't even see them. There's this clear delineation of lines with the tiger here on the nose and everything, even though it's in shadow, even though I've darkened this up like crazy. It's there. It's a subtle range of values which I just don't have. Yeah, and I can even, like if I go here again, and then I take the black and white version, and I put it here, and then we can get, you know, an objective feedback on this. Hey, Yansun, welcome. So I can get some objective feedback on this and look at these grays versus this one versus that one. Down here is really, I mean, look how dark that is compared to what it should be. I mean, I'm way off there. Let's say, you know, the chin is definitely in shadow with our tiger. The value is there, but then white and shadow should look like that. So I really need to bring those lines up. Oh geez, that's a lot to change. I'm pretty close on the nose right here. And then if let's say we look at, well, I don't have any place where there's just local color of this. And this is mainly, we just worked it up in local color. But if I look at the white that I've added here in the brighter areas of the tiger's head, yeah, we're still pretty far off. I mean, that's light hitting it. Let's say the sunlight is hitting an orange part. Looks like that. Looks like that. But it's interesting, look at the stark transition between the stripes and where the light is hitting. That's really interesting. Okay. All right, several things need to happen here. And I think it needs to start with the stripes. We need to go back into the stripes and really refine those to what they need to be. And which means I need to bring in my reference that I'm working from mainly for the stripe shapes. And then I'm going to use this reference as far as coloration, value and color. And let's make sure that we're on a layer that is below. Okay, so above this guy. New stripes. Uh, that's the one thing we could we could continue working this up till infinitum, and I keep kind of beating myself up on that, like trying to get this to look good in certain ways, and I see changes that I want to make, and I make those changes, and I feel like I am not making progress on this at all. And we're really not. I mean, we've been on the same thing for a while. And then I always think, okay, this is the process, Chris. This is the process. I wonder if a lot of artists would see my process that I'm using here and think, wow, that's way too arduous. I'm not doing this. I'll just give up. Maybe that's why the time-lapse videos on YouTube are so popular compared to, just showing a full video of the entire process. I'd keep the whites on the teal side of the color wheel, but you do you. It's actually interesting because if you look at this, I mean, it's all gray. And I'm picking from some areas that probably has some reflected light in them. Okay. But you did confirm kind of what I was thinking, because I keep making, as I was picking, I was like, that's too warm. I want to, I kept going towards gray, but let's bring it even further towards gray. And I still, the thing is, you can pick these colors, but you have to think about form and where your light is on what you're actually working on. So lightening it up, darkening it up, adding, some coolness to it, some warms. It's going to get, because we got this muzzle here, right, that sticks out, and I want that to come out. So I'm going to darken up, how that white stripe kind of feeds down this way. But then there is this dark shape here. This is where the whiskers kind of fit in and make those really cool lines wrapping this muzzle. And we also have some kind of stripes that continue on this way. See, I want to make sure that this form isn't confused. Here, I mean, even with this image really small, you can see that there's a break. There's a break here where there's the side of the face and then there's this muzzle. And that's what I want to capture. This is why it's so important to, I mean, learning to draw is what we're doing. Or learning art in a lot of ways is what we're doing, and you can put it in that kind of aspect. But really, we're learning to see, and in more ways. Yeah, definitely. And I think being able to see what the difference is here and what makes it look the way that it looks is the real skill that we're developing. I mean, the drawings are transient. We could draw every day, and that's good. Yeah, I'll definitely draw every day. Do something every day, but that's not the bigger necessity. I think the bigger necessity is learning to understand and see. Yeah, observation is, the number one skill in representational art. You could get some debate on that too. It'd be kind of cool, especially when you get into things like comic book art and stuff like that, where, there's a lot of things where they're going off of their memory. Is observation involved in that? And I would kind of argue yes, because in order to get there, you had to observe, right? But I agree with you. I think observation is extremely important. But observation, honestly, if you made a course on it, I don't know if you could. Well, I guess you can. How to build observation skills would be a course you could create. But the bulk of it would be, getting in the mileage, doing the work. So what I'm doing now is I'm clearly defining these shapes of the white stripes against the black stripes. And I'm looking at our older tiger on the bottom for the shapes, and I'm picking from the tiger on the top for the color. But every single thing that I pick from there, I'm adjusting, because the light is different on the tiger on the bottom, the tiger that we want. This has been a college level course in observation in real time. Yeah, observation in real time. Not the most exciting thing, I will say. There's one brush in this David Revoy set that I like, that I'm going to have to figure out how to transfer over to that set in some way. It's this pencil brush here. It gives these kind of really sharp lines that I like in a lot of ways. I always like a lot of texture in my work. And everything I do, that's how I kind of bring in my own aspects. All right, that's looking kind of weird right there. The nice thing about digital, the forgiving part of it is if I get these kind of colors down in the shape that I want, that's the most important thing. Because the value in the color can be adjusted really easily. And I'm trying to think if that can be achieved on an oil painting just as well. Just as easy. In some instances, it depends on how you put your paint down. So I have a tutorial on my Gumroad for how to paint the eyes in oil, and it goes through my entire process of how I paint in oil. And part of the process is I use these small kind of daubs of color. I'm trying to think of a better terminology for that, but yeah, just basically small daubs of color. And they stay really thin and light, and it becomes really easy to make some adjustments. The difference in that technique is you'll see a lot of artists will kind of do an overall paint over, like kind of an overall block in of what they're working on. So get a bunch of colors down everywhere, a bunch of values down everywhere, and then kind of refine from there. But the process I use is very different. I do that. I do the same thing, but in a very specific level. So like here, I'm working on a very small part because I want to get the turn of this form right here. And it's looking a bit bloated. But using these kind of small areas of color in oil painting will make it easy for you to adjust the color after they're down. And you'd have to check out the tutorial for the whole process. It's been a long time. I spent a lot of time on that. And I've been working this whole week on trying to get... So that one was painting the eyes, but this week I'm working on trying to get the one out for painting the nose. 3 noses. Because I did eyes, noses, mouth, and ear. And I just got to get everything edited and, out there. And I'm observing on a very minute level right here. But I'm mentally erasing all of the whiskers right now. And the whiskers could play a huge role in the description of this muzzle. As I look at that, I really don't like it. I don't like any of that. It totally destroyed the whole shape there. I mean, instead of, you know, if we outline this, we got the eye, then it comes out here, and then it goes down, and then we got this big lump, right? And then it goes in. What I want is for it to flow down. Now, originally, we used this tiger as the major shape for our head. Oops, wrong one. I got so many documents open right now. What I want to do is check the drawing. This is the one that we did the drawing from. And what I'll do is I'll line up the eyes as well as I can. It's one of those things where you can like barely see it. There you go. You kind of have to, when you're doing this, you have to get in there and kind of move it around, and then you'll be able to see the difference between the foreground and the background. Okay, the eyes are lined up, and then, oops. 100% opacity, new layer. Yeah, I'm not worrying about, you know, I think what I'm going to do is just not worry about time. The head is much more circular, the cheeks seem much more rounded than on a human skull. Yeah. Well, at least on this tiger. Look at this guy. Right? This one on the right. And kind of you see that with this one down here. I think the lighting on this one is on this tiger, the one that I just did an overlay on, the lighting on it is confusing. There's no clear light source. But if you look at the tiger on the right, it's, you know, this perfect delineation of a skull right there. And how everything flows back, you know, and down. But I'm not worried about that right now. What I want to do is look at this. Actually, let's not even do it, you know, I guess I could do it in that way in some way. So here's, looks like this tiger was just eating something. His fur is all wet. Looking at these stripes, I'm going to pull directly from these shapes. And the one thing I'm thinking about right now as well is how accurate to life do I want to be? We could go to a point where it's, our tiger looks exactly like this image, okay? So, photographically exact. Or, on the other hand, you say, okay, the only thing I care about is that someone could say, yeah, that kind of looks like a tiger. Maybe, which extreme do you want to pick? And maybe the overarching result should be, our feeling, our intensity. And I really think that's the way it should be, What are we communicating? Let's bring the opacity down on that, and then turn this off. We basically have our drawing, our exact tracing for the stripes on this tiger. Of course, I'm not going to focus on these kind of outside areas. And you can see we made a lot of adjustments to that. A lot of these stripes as well. Because that tiger's head was just... I like the eyes and the nose and the muzzle for that, but everything else we changed up. So I'm going to use this by... Let's bring the opacity way down, where you can barely see it. Yeah, actually I'm going to keep that there. Don't I have that as a reference over here? Yes, I do. Got all these references stacked up. Yeah, I don't like that. We're not going to continue with that. Delete. You have to make those decisions. You have to make the decisions where you take a stand and you say, no, I'm going to stay away from exactly the way it looks like in life and focus on, a clear combination of, of communicating your idea and how much exactness from life you want. And the one thing I am going to do is delineate. Let me get to my hairbrush. I'm going to delineate these darker stripes a bit more. I don't think you'd ever be accused of photorealism. It really is a search for what shapes and lines describe the essence of the tiger. Yeah. I remember close to the beginning of this, we were looking at an artist that was painting tigers. It looked like he's made a lot of people happy with some amazing tiger paintings. And the one criticism that I had from his work was that it was a bit too realistic, like, painted from a photo kind of thing. And I was like, well, that's fine. I mean, that's what he wants to do. But I tell you what, I bet you that person, has such a better understanding of the shapes of tigers, the idea, how to capture a tiger. Well, I mean, not how to capture a tiger literally, but how to the ins and outs of describing a tiger. And I'm keeping these stripes really dark right now. I'm not even changing my value, just keeping them dark. I'm putting this on a different layer so I can adjust those values pretty easily. Going, you know, just totally destroying my whiskers here, which I've put down like 3 times, I think. And I've merged them, so there's that. Wow, and it's like that whole underside is dark. I'm gonna go with that. See, I'm also making decisions, you know, how much of it am I gonna change from the older tiger? Then when we get way out here and all this kind of fluff, I'm gonna go with the older tiger shape. I don't like the way that looks on the younger tiger. And then all of this, the white areas down here, will pull from the older tiger. But there's a line right here, a stripe, but I'm gonna not do that one. I'm gonna continue on with what we had here from the older tiger and how it goes up. I'm going to try and darken this up as well. The one thing that's disappointing that I'm also thinking about right now as I'm doing this in digital is that if I did the same thing within oil paint, and kept it in layers, you know, some transparencies, glazes. You can do this kind of, you know, overworking per se, and just constantly increase the richness and the detail and the kind of interest in whatever you're working on. But within digital, for some reason, I don't feel that. Maybe because it's like the physicality of the paint. I don't feel that physicality. Not liking anything I'm doing today. There are days when everything works out well. And then there are days when no matter what you try and put on the canvas, it just looks like crap. To put it intelligently, succinctly. And from my experience, in those days when everything you do looks like crap, is to kind of forget about that. Because you're not a good judge of your own work. Well, not all the time. Good and bad is, you know, these kind of terms are relative. Not even that. They're meaningless. They're not relative, they're meaningless. Alright, I'm going to try and lighten this up just a bit, but it's going to stay within those tealy green colors. Tealy bluey green thing. Yikes. So you know, that's too much. The technical term of color. Tealy, greeny, bluey. What do you think of darkening the face and forehead so the contrast of the lower face and jaw will show better? I don't think it'll work, honestly. But I could be completely wrong. I think if we did something like that, I think the entirety of the whole painting would have to come down in value. Honestly. And more and more I'm getting to this point where I don't feel like we can really look at just the value alone and keep that separate. See, I don't even like, you know, that little bit of light that I put on there. I'm gonna back all that out. I want it dark down there. I want it dark. I want that turn. I want the, the stripes are still there. There's definitely a clear delineation between the stripes. I'm not sure if I like it though. Man. All right, let's darken up everything. It's gonna be easy to do because we have a lightning layer right there. You know, well, that's on the body now. I pretty much removed it from everywhere. So let's add in a new layer. This will be better done with, well, we could try darken. Last time I tried darken, it didn't really work well. Ugh. I'm gonna try it with multiply. I could even make that more subtle, like say 50%. Let's go back here. Now that I've done that, I have to darken up the palm frond would have to get darker. This palm frond and this one back here. Definitely all down there, which that's not working. Is that above where I'm working at? Yeah, it is. Okay. It's all the way up there. This is a frustrating day. Delete. Don't like that. No, I don't think we can darken up. I think that's as dark as it can go, really, to keep the interest. Honestly, if anything, I kind of like darkening that up just a little bit. Ugh. All right, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to back up all those changes, okay? today was mostly a wash. Okay. I'm going to come back to this. There's always another day, honestly, and from what I'm feeling right now, it's kind of like I need to leave the head where it's at, let it sit for a while, and move on to the rest because we have so much more to do. I have the entirety of this body to do. This palm frond down here should probably go pretty quickly because it looks really good. I just need to add some life to it. But yeah, there's so much more that needs to happen here. And I'm not getting anywhere with the head. I just need to give it some thought, probably look at some reference of, and probably just say no on the whole shock of sunlight on it. It may just be something we don't do, you know. But if anything, I think the most important thing right now is just kind of move on and stop beating my head against the wall. Usually when you do that, you're not going to get anywhere. What'll happen is you come back to it, you know, a few days later or a week later, and you're like, oh, okay, this is working in this aspect or whatever. Yeah. Oh, geez. So if I go into the body, just to play around for right now, to get, you know, kind of something going. Here, let me bring out that one tiger where I had these colors. I kind of like those colors. So the body of the tiger was this tiger down at the bottom. Not a Sumatran tiger, but that's okay because the body of Sumatran tigers, and this is, I forget what tiger that was. Not a Bengal tiger. Anyway, we were using that body more than anything. I can always darken this up. I'm not even caring about this right now, just kind of putting in some ideas. I'm going to go back to my brushes. My favorites, at least. This guy. This is the one I want. And then we go in here, we put on scatter at 30 or whatever, and I forget what else we change. But I'll work on that in a bit. There is a lot of long hair there, but I want to get this kind of textural thing going. That's very blue, almost too blue. Let's add in some greens. Just really throwing in some values here, keeping it mostly gray, and using the grays to describe the form that I'm seeing. It gets really dark right in here, and then there's this kind of sunk in part of the chest, dark under the chin, well, under the beard. Actually, I should probably move this down. Yeah, too far. Right there. It'll be under the beard now. at least part of it. Tiger beard. And these paws will darken up a lot. Going way outside the lines, don't really care. You're gonna face this with art that you do, where, like I said, like there's days where it's just things are not going right. Things are not working. You could have months of that. Let's hope not. Let's hope it's not that long. But you can have a lot of time where you feel like everything you do is just terrible. I've had that. And I'm not special. I've heard other artists just kind of, it's just, it reminds me of George Leonard's book, Mastery, where he describes kind of the trajectory of mastery, or the flow of work when you're trying to master something. And that's what we're trying to do here. That's what I'm trying to do, at least, is I'm not a hobby artist. I'm trying to master this craft. I'm trying to like really make something that is bigger than me, in some way. And what you'll see, at least the way George Leonard describes it, is you're working. Zoom in here. Working. And then you'll have this spike, right? And this is, you've learned something brand new, and you're at a different level. And then plateau. And then spike. And then plateau. Spike. Plateau. But then there's some days you feel like this is where you go. But the one thing that I know is usually when you come back on top, you're right up here. Right? So that plateau kind of happens. And the one thing that I don't think he describes very well in the book, or it isn't even talk about, is, let's say that you start here, okay, and this is your journey. The beginning of art and the end of your life, which is going to happen. No one wants to talk about it, but you will die, right? Let's say you here's where you begin. You're going to see like this kind of crazy bam, 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 like plateau, like, oh my God, you're so good. And then all of a sudden, plateau. And they get longer and longer and longer, and actually this will probably extend pretty far out, hopefully. But you have this like huge increase at the beginning, and then you get onto these larger and larger plateaus. What's the reason for that? The reason is, it's just like athletes at the top of their game. There are fundamentals, like let's say you talk about any sport, basketball, football, whatever, soccer, or American football, and whatever. At the beginning, when you're just starting out and you're in Little League, not that I've ever played sports, but I've heard of a lot of sports analogies within this kind of learning idea. When you first start out, you're learning the fundamentals, and everything is like this huge epiphany. And you're like, holy cow, okay, I can implement this one thing and I make a huge increase in my ability, in my progress. And it's fantastic because you're learning so much, and you can feel the improvement. you can see the trajectory. Like, wow, weeks ago I was doing this, and now I'm so much better in art or in whatever. But then you get up to, let's say, high school basketball. You're still learning. College level, it's slowed down a lot. You're working on the minute changes within the game, right? And then maybe you're fortunate enough to go into like NBA or NFL. And at this level, it's like with the Olympics. At these levels, the tiniest little change is the difference between being fantastic, winning the game, being the best player on the planet. And it's those little subtle things that take so long to learn, and it makes those plateaus, seem forever long. I feel like I'm on one of those long plateaus right now. But the good part about that, and as described in George Leonard's book, is you welcome the plateau. You're excited about it because if you're on a plateau, you just have to stay the course, keep working at it, and eventually that spike will come. That spike in learning will come. Just got to keep at it. And earlier, Thinker, you said, and I agree, but I'm going to add an extra layer. You say observation is the number one skill in art. We could probably move that down a notch, because honestly, I think the number one skill to learn, and this is in life and everything, is the habit. That's the number one skill. The get up and go, the do it, start again, the keep goings, the perseverance. As we bring it all the way back around to what we're trying to illustrate in our darn tiger painting, which I'm having a lot of trouble with. Even if I don't describe perseverance in this damn painting, I am going to definitely learn perseverance in this damn painting. Darn painting. Sorry about that. As long as I learn it. Maybe anybody watching this. So far, Thinker, you're the only perseverant individual to put up with my daily streams. Thank you. I've persevered through all the boring, all of the soapbox moments. Come out on the other side. All right. So just trying to throw in some coloration in there. Let's hide that image. Yeah, I think if I did anything down here for the rest of this tiger, and I could do that pretty easily, I think. If I go, because it's on a separate layer, just do this. Gotta make the sound while you do it. And then Control U. Huh. It's working somewhat. Why isn't it hitting everything? Yeah, that's fine. And drop the saturation on it. Yeah. Looking good. While we're here, doing some overall changes, I'm going to jump into Palm 3. And I'm going to change this to an overlay layer. Overlay, there you are. A dark gray. Darken that whole thing up. Actually, I could have locked the transparency on that. Let's do that. Actually, it would be alpha transparency. Wait, did I do that right? Let's check it. Yep, sure did. And where's the rock at? Here's the rock. I'm going to do another overlay layer. Ooh, I got too dark too quick. Marathon session this morning. And I can't help it. I'm back on the darn tiger head. I'm basically just saying screw it right now, and I'm going all white on this. But I'm being specific about it. I'm not hitting the, or trying not to hit the stripes. But we need something on the nose, and everything I put on the nose thus far has looked terrible. I'm doing this zoomed way out so that I can get kind of an overview idea. So kind of like the light is coming down this way. I'll worry about the edges after I get an initial shape. Hey Ashton, thanks for showing up. And I appreciate it. It's slow. We're having some troubles today, but it's coming along. Don't like that. I feel like only having that shock of light there needs to be in other places. Just kind of hints in other places, like, hey, there's light hitting the tiger. Like a beam of sunlight hitting the tiger, and it's hitting in these kind of random places. It's almost like you have to forget about like the tigers there, like cover it up with your hand and just put like daubs of light, like put your stylus down in some random place in the where the light would hit, and then think, oh, the form will follow this way. I don't like that one. Yeah, Mardi Gras break. Yeah, happy Mardi Gras. Yeah, Carnival's going on right now, isn't it? Or did that finish already? Or is it? I think it's maybe the whole month. That looks like a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm gonna go with that for right now. And I'll come back in here. And I will adjust some of these edges. Let me go all white on this. I'll adjust some of these edges so it looks like hair. Like some hair follicles are getting hit by just bright light. Always gotta think about the form. Can't just like throw something on there without it actually describing what is the object. Light describes the object. Little tiny hairs here on the nose. Makes me think. I mean, there's so much. I'm going extra long on this stream. Ooh, it's past 6. No, I need to get breakfast. I'm hungry. What do you think? Let me finish my thought here. Now, all this observation that I've done with this tiger, now I know. The one thing I know is that, you know, on cats, even tigers, the hairs on the nose and around the eyes are a lot shorter than most other places. And so as I'm putting in this kind of direct sunlight piece, I'm going to take that knowledge, from observation and use it to make it look even more naturalistic. And this should be a combination of a couple layers as well. So I added in a normal layer, not an overlay layer, so that I could, too uniform. Saw what I did there? Gotta be careful. Hairs are not uniform like that. So now I can put in some of these hairs that will go over the darker areas, the darker stripes, because they're getting hit by light. And maybe I'll go full, just crazy white on this for this whisker that's being hit by light, and maybe this area, let's just go all white on that. Because that's the white of the fur getting hit by direct sunlight. It's going to be crazy bright. Yeah, classes can be exhausting, Ashton. I can see. Especially when it's kind of incessant learning. You're like, gotta get done, gotta go, 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 go. Give me a break. I need a break. This one. Now what I want to attempt here, even though I'm hungry and I have to go, palm frond being hit by a little bit of sunlight. This is what I want to achieve. Because it looks a bit unnatural if it's only happening on the tiger. It will happen in other places. But the key is doing it in a way where it doesn't pull away from our center of interest, which would be the tiger. Man, I need to just... Actually, I should be on an overlay layer. I need to bump this all the way up. And overlay. Let's warm it up a bit more. I figure if we keep it close... And now I'm getting text messages. I figure if we keep it close to, some of these highlights close to the tiger, it will keep the viewer into the center of interest. It's becoming very apparent to me that maybe I should do this stream a little bit later in the day. Get more and more people on this stream right as I'm closing. And then it keeps me on for way too long. All right, now in the background, I want to capture like one of these leaves. Needs to be warm. Nope. Yeah. Well, I've been hydrating. I always have tea next to me, but getting text messages and everything. Everything's telling me that I should close out the stream for the day. Yeah, it's about time. I have to start the rest of my day. I should be doing my exercises right now, which is really important. So I'm going to get to it. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me for this extra long stream. It's an hour and 43 minutes now. Jeez. I wish I got a lot more done on this tiger than I have done today. Struggling with a lot of things. And through the struggle, that's where the real learning happens, definitely. I would say that if you're dealing with a lot of struggle in your artwork, just keep going, and it'll happen. Eventually, it'll happen for you. You'll get better. You'll make that piece you're working on better, and you'll learn something definitely. All right, tomorrow's Sunday. I'll be back here tomorrow at the same time, probably around 4:30. Maybe I'll try a little bit later tomorrow, but I'll schedule it out, so look for the stream schedule. Thanks again, and I will see you guys tomorrow.